I got a job in the biggest pub in the Southern Hemisphere at the time. We had like mini festivals in this pub. We did like 5,000 people. You're talking like over a weekend, like $500,000 Australian dollars in revenue, which is like $1 million dirhams just in one pub.
What would you say has been your funniest either kitchen or restaurant incident?
Kitchen's full of funny stories. I think the one that kind of shook me the most, some guy ran up to me in my face, screaming, obviously under the influence.
What advice would you give for anyone wanting to get into the industry?
Seek a mentor, understand that everything is a lesson in the kitchen.
JKP soldiers, a very warm welcome back to the show. Whether you're in the kitchen, restaurant, gym, or simply taking your daily stroll, hope all is well in your life. As you know, we love to get into the details of what makes this industry tick and find the people who are making their mark in this vast gastronomic landscape. Strap in, because today on the Chef JKP Podcast, we are bringing the heat. Joining us is a young chef who is rewriting the rulebook. On the podcast this week, we welcome Chef Jack Jarrott. Straight out of Bundaberg, Australia, Jack's journey took him from mastering flames at London's top steakhouses, training under the Gordon Ramsay empire, crushing it in Dubai at Sucre DIFC with Michelin Guide honours, to then helping the Guild dominate Dubai's dining scene. And now, he's at the helm of the stunning Sand and Koal at the Mandarin Oriental in Emirates Palace. Easily one of the most opulent kitchens in the world. Jack's energy is next level. His love for the craft is real, and his story is all about hustle, heart, and lighting up the culinary world, one open fire at a time. Listen out for a story. Well, actually, he's got quite a few up his sleeve. Time to rock and roll.
Hey, my name's Jack Jarrott, and I'm the chef de cuisine at Sand and Koal, Mandarin Oriental, Abu Dhabi. If you like the podcast, make sure to follow, share, and subscribe.
So, Jack, a very warm welcome to the show. As is customary, can you tell me your first or favourite childhood food memory?
Sure. Pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm very excited. So I thought about this a lot, actually. Obviously, you posted some of the questions for me to have a think about, and food for me when I was younger was like, I don't know, not one particular thing. Like I grew up doing a lot of fishing and camping, and you go and catch like mud crabs and be out in the swamp or out in the mangroves and catching stuff like that. So I still remember one of my fond memories was sitting. Christmas for us in Australia is like fresh seafood. Crabs, Moreton Bay bugs, if you know what they are. Mm-hmm. They're like the shovel-nosed lobster. And you would spend like 20 minutes peeling 5 prawns or as a youngster, and then like digging out crab meat after you've cooked them that you've caught like a couple of days before, and just put it on a piece of Wonder White bread with butter and salt. And that was really special to me, and I grew a big appreciation for like top quality seafood and fresh ingredients, and I just really appreciated like simple things like that. And then at home, Mum like smashed the cooking. Like she had to cook for 3 kids, even though I'm an only child. You know, I was just eating so much food. So I got into a routine of like just eating consistently the same thing. So she would cook like corned beef, and I'd eat corned beef literally for a month straight. And she's like, "Are you sure you're okay with this?" And I was like, yeah. So like home cooked meals are really special to me, like really warm, hearty food. Mum really always went big with the flavors, you know, like maybe to try and entice me to eat vegetables. She'd always like put something on the vegetables and honey, but it would always be just very simple protein, veg, and some kind of carbohydrate. And then I remember as I kind of matured, like the man in the house started to cook barbecues. Barbecue culture in Australia is super popular. and we use gas barbecues so you can quickly just light up the barbecue and cook a steak, you know. Butchery in Australia is like top tier. Like we don't even see Wagyu in Australia because the Angus is just off the shelf from a butcher is so good, sausages and things like this. But I always loved steak and beef and cooking beef, and but I was never allowed to touch the barbecue. So
till what sort of age were you allowed to start playing on the barbecue?
you're not, you
At
weren't.
all?
Until I honestly got to, I left home, then whoever was responsible for cooking the barbecue, whether it was seasoning, resting, whatever,
Right.
you know, they all have their own technique.
Yeah.
You know? Everyone has their own technique. But until I left home and then came back, and then I was the chef.
Right.
You know, you're not allowed to touch someone else's barbecue. That's just like an unwritten rule.
And if you do,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
It's something. It's blamed on you because the steak's wrong or whatever.
Right.
But barbecue culture definitely is something that I'm really like the food associated with it, sausages. Whether it's, you know, my mum used to make this stuffed mushroom that it still lives with me. A big portobello field mushroom, and she put like spicy chorizo and shallots through it with cream cheese and then parmesan on top, and you would put that inside the Weber grill,
Right.
and it would cook the mushroom and then just melt the cheese, and it was like a steak condiment. I remember the mushrooms more than I remember the steak, you know. It's just it's really, really good. And then like along with your seafood, you like cooking. Mum always used to go big. Like I said, she'd cook like oysters Kilpatrick, which is an Australian oyster with bacon and Worcestershire sauce. Like things like this is really, really special.
But as a teen, did you? So you always had an appreciation for food.
I loved eating. I'm a very tall, big guy, and I always used to say, like, when I first started cooking, like, eat first, cook second. So, and then as Mum tried really hard for us to travel and see the world, so I got to see a lot of like Polynesian and Melanesian countries. We went to Indonesia. And I love trying like the most craziest things on the menu and things that were associated with the local cuisine. Like in Samoa, I went to Samoa. We were cooking the umu. So I was there. We caught the pig, and not caught the pig, but the pig was in the farm.
Yeah.
We went and picked it up. They put it in the back of the car. The guy's having a beer and drinking, and they're laughing like the locals because we were friends with some people there. Pig's tied up in the back, and I was like, what are they laughing at? He's like, he's the policeman, and we the local policeman. They take the pig, we took the pig, we kill the pig, clean it, dress it up. They dug the hole, and you like heat the rocks and bury the pig with all the plantain and the breadfruit, bananas, and heaps of like different fruits and vegetables, and then you bury it. And
For how long?
Like 12 hours. And then, you'd wake up for the event the next morning, or they would sit up all night, and then you'd dig this thing up, and it was just like a smorgasbord, like a whole pig, like a maybe 15-kilo pig. So you'd feed like half the village, and all of this kind of thing was like made a big impact for me for what I appreciate, like really home cooked, special, memorable meals.
So also when you went to Indonesia, so I'm just thinking. Were you sort of traveling as a teen?
Yeah, so I think my first, we went to Indonesia when I was maybe 17. And at that point, you know, you start to remember a bit more about cuisine and culture and stuff like this. And I come from a small town in Australia where your exposure to the rest of the world, like we live in a bubble. Australia still is a bubble today. Sydney, Melbourne, okay, but you know, to see this like street food and all of this kind of thing was just mind blowing, like just unbelievable different cuisines. I was tasting things you never tasted before, flavors and that then just created this fascination with tasting different foods and cuisines.
But how was I'm just interested to know, when you first went there, did you already have a sort of palate ready for spice?
100%. Always eating spicy. We're very lucky in Australia. We have a huge influence from Southeast Asian food and West Asian food.
Right.
So a lot of Vietnamese, a lot of Indonesians, a lot of like West Asians like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh even. migrated to Australia to assist with building, and they got visas very early, like the 40s, 50s. And that then has created like this massive Southeast Asian culture. Of course, geographically as well is good. So I fell in love with Asian food in general. Like it's really special to me. And then just by chance, we had a lady living across from us for the majority of my childhood. She's from India. And we only had the pleasure of eating with her a few times, but she and her husband traveled around the world. He was like an engineer, and she was like a speaker about food and spoke about Indian food. And she would host days long cooking classes and speak how eating different foods at different times, like the medicinal properties, also the feeling, emotion, and all of this stuff, and how it affects your gut. So she was well before her time. Like superfood is just food for her, you know. So we ate there, just like I said, a couple of times, maybe 3 times max. And we'd come over, and she would see you in the street. She's like, "I'm so excited to cook for you. I'm so excited to cook for you." And she always asks, "Is spicy okay?" And my mum loves chili. I love chili, and all the different fish sauce. All of this is like no problem at that age. And I remember the first time we went, she had what I now know is a thali dish, but it was literally as big as this table. It was full. I said, "How are we going to eat all of this? There are only 5 people here." She's like, "I've been cooking for 2 days." So I've been stirring kulfi for like 12 hours. And it was just unreal. So my exposure to these things I was very lucky. We're very lucky in Australia. So.
But when did you decide, or how was the journey sort of into professional cooking? How did that come about?
It wasn't straightforward as with most people, and I never actually intended on being a chef.
What was the path then? Instead of cooking, what was your projection at the time?
In school in Australia, you get out, you go study. I think that's like Western culture with the whole world now.
Right.
So I've just forced a study, and I'm really passionate about design, architecture. So I got into industrial design, which is like product design, and I really loved it. I absolutely loved it. But I quickly realized that like sitting down and sitting on a computer all day long and turning creativity on tap was quite hard, and adulthood, moving out of home at 17. But I got a job in one of the biggest pubs in the Southern Hemisphere. It was the biggest pub in the Southern Hemisphere at the time.
Tell me all about it.
So I used to collect glasses.
Right. So
17. Clean bathrooms. Yeah, 17.
Right.
Underage. Had to leave after work because it's drinking age is 18 in Australia. So I just collected glasses and stacked fridges and just had an absolute ball. Loved it. Like really loved it and got hooked. And we had this, it was called the Sunday Sesh. And my gosh, it was debauchery. Like,
right.
Just 5,000 people. We had like mini festivals in this pub. And I think we did like 5,000 people. Like you're talking like over a weekend, like $500,000 Australian dollars in revenue, which is like 1 million dirhams just in one pub. And it was unreal. And they served a lot of great food, but I was just collecting glasses at the time. And then jumped in and out of like different kind of hospitality industry. And it wasn't until I moved to London that I just jumped in the kitchen. So I already knew the pace. I knew the lifestyle. I knew the expectations, how to work clean and tidy. I'd been bartending and collecting glasses, a bit of everything. My first job in London was pouring pints the old-fashioned way.
Right, okay.
In Ye Olde Watling off in St. Paul's.
Mm-hmm.
So Christopher Wren designed the St. Paul's Cathedral in that pub. So, but I still wasn't a chef.
But still great architecture though. I mean like...
Yeah, well not at the pub because
no,
it's like this.
Yes, yeah.
but
wow.
Yeah. And then I moved into London. I took the leap of faith at like 24. And I said, I had dropped out of university basically. I stopped working, only working in hospitality. And I said, I became a yes man. Like I said to myself, I was reading a lot of like books, how do I get out of this rut, you know, what's next? Because at that stage of your life, if you don't really have an idea, 24, I was pretty nervous, pretty concerned that my future wasn't very bright.
But when did you move from or when did you decide to make the move from Australia to London? Because it's quite a big leap.
Huge.
Right.
It was kind of going to be like a big 6-month journey of travel and just blow like a bunch of cash and see as many countries as I can, or get the visa, move to London, and we get a 2-year working visa as Australians, so it's pretty straightforward, and you can just pay someone to do it. But I was about 22 and I started to save money. I moved back into home, which was a blessing and a curse. You know, I realized like, I've been out of home since I'm 17. Like, what am I doing back here? So that probably put some fire under my butt and got me rolling. I saved the most cash I've ever saved, worked 2 jobs. And then I moved to London. And I worked in a pub for like 6 months and then jumped straight into kitchens. Had an opportunity.
So after those 6 months, you sort of understood, okay, I really want to be in hospitality. And instead of working front of house, what made you sort of jump into the kitchen?
A lot of people had said, you are a fanatic about food. Like I said, I became obsessed with like eating and on a budget, you know. At that point in time, I was earning peanuts.
Sure.
My first paycheck in London was £800, and I almost wanted to call mum and be like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah.
And but I'd seen so many countries already. I did a bit of a Euro trip before that, and just going around to like market culture in Australia is huge. Like Saturday markets, always up for this stuff. Like first thing I did in London was like Borough Market, Camden Market, tasting all the cheap eats, and I love hole in the wall food, and I cooked a lot at home. I cooked all the time, like more than just everything. Food prep. I was big into fitness and food prep, and always trying to invite people over, cooking barbecues and whatever, like any opportunity. I was trying to cook and really elevate what I was doing just as a home chef. Someone said, "Oh, have you ever thought of being a chef?" I said, "Well, not really. Like, no, I hadn't. Not even passed my mind, to be honest. Even though I was really getting into the food scene and really enjoying it, watching all the shows and passionate about food. I watched a great TV show that kind of, not many chefs know about it, I don't think, but it's by Action Bronson. Fuck, that's delicious."
Yeah.
And it was hilarious, and I just was like, wow, like him and then David Chang, and those 2 people really changed my perception of food. And I said yes to this opportunity to jump in a kitchen, and immediately addicted. Like, not hooked, addicted. Like, completely and utterly, like, I couldn't think of anything else.
So where was your first job?
So I took a job, and this is by chance too, and it just fit me as a person, and it was in a well-established brand called Gaucho. And like, looking back now, it was probably really lucky, because maybe I wouldn't have survived. Like, I didn't have any culinary education at that point. And it was very straightforward, and you know, your recipes are laid out for you, measurements, weights, everything. It's very down the line, like simple food, not complicated, and a well-structured, amazing business model that works and was making millions. And as a chef, to walk into that was really easy, but at the same time, they questioned whether they're like, there's no chance you've never been a chef before. And I still think back to the day of my first head chef. His name's Oliver, Bolivian guy. And he gave me an opportunity, but he still didn't believe that I'd never been a chef. Like, he genuinely was like, there's no chance. I cooked like 100 cover service inside section.
So that was your interview?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, he chatted to me. He's like, well, we'll just see you in the kitchen. And my roommate who gave me the job, he's like, just move fast and learn how to use a knife.
That was it?
And I was like, okay, sounds okay. So Jamie Oliver was doing like masterclasses on knife usage, and I knew how to use a knife, you know. I fillet fish and all of that, clean steaks before, like just basic stuff. vegetables is like easy peasy. So I jumped in there and yeah.
But it was one of the, I mean, Gaucho was a very famous brand back in the day.
Enormous.
Loads of celebs there, all that kind of stuff. So once you got the job, when did you then decide to sort of take a culinary educational path?
I think obviously I just went down a rabbit hole. Like I was night and day. Anytime I was reading, researching, like UK at the moment and at the time and still at the moment, like the amount of information you can get, like hospitality, big hospitality, I think it is, caterer, all of these publications are just fabulous. Like you can absorb the industry very easily
and quickly.
And it's great. It's free. It's amazing. And I just started to become familiar with the industry, and I was like, I have to get some kind of culinary education because I don't have anything to show for it. I don't know fundamentals of cooking. And Westminster, Kingsway has like an adult kind of level 1, 2, and 3 NVQ, which is now called VRQ. And it was within budget, and I could do it on my day off. So I went to culinary school like on my day off for like 3 years. After like 6 months of joining Gaucho, I was like, I have to do it. And that was great. It was pretty straightforward, but
So you're working, and doing day release essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
So I'd finish work, and then if I had to work on any projects and stuff, like it was not until like the second and third year you had to do written assignments. But I'd go and just 7 a.m. in the kitchen in Westminster, start packing the fridge and learn how to it was simple stuff at first, brunoise and all of this. Pretty straightforward, but then just went through everything. We had the big culinary book and covered as much as we could. So I learned all the fundamentals of French cooking as Escoffier.
And I'm just wondering, at that time, were you thinking to yourself, like, I wish I'd got into this sooner?
100%.
Because you sound
100%.
like you were sort of, from a very early age, obviously, you're super immersed in food, almost geeking out about things, obviously coming from that family background where you were exposed to lots of different foods and different techniques and different experiences, which is amazing. So it almost sounds like, that this is absolutely the vocation for you.
I could not think of a better job for my personality. Like the impulsive behavior and like cooking a dish and like just tasting things or like seeing something and want to like replicate it in the kitchen, and my energy and my way with people, I find that a lot of people told me as I progressed as a chef, like, you need to be more hectic. You need to start screaming and stuff. And I said, why? I just have a way, like, I'm interested in other people's cultures, and I learn how they like mold together in a workplace, especially working in London, especially in UAE. And it just everything meant to be, like, yeah, I regret not going earlier, but at the same time, maybe if I didn't have the life experiences I did, I wouldn't be so passionate and dedicated to what I did. Definitely in COVID, just 100% solidified how much I love my job and how passionate I was. I was like making YouTube videos and cooking and making sourdough like everyone else in the UK and in the world and eating one loaf a day at least. Yeah. But I realized like I broke down and cried a couple of times. I was like, I miss being in the shit. I miss everyone harassing me for like questions and things, and I miss teaching people what I know and like building a team and working on, kitchen operations day to day, but the people that are in your team are like potentially years of projects, and I just missed it. I really missed it. So it just solidified it. And then I came to the UAE like right after COVID and worked 100 million hours a week.
Yeah. But just before we get to that, which we will, I also want to understand, after Gaucho, when did you start also, how did you make the move to also go into sort of Gordon Ramsay restaurants?
So I think very early on in my career, I realized that every single kitchen and chef has something to offer you, whether it's genuine knowledge or like they're going to be a mentor for you, or they're going to be like the Antichrist mentor that like you learn how to not operate. And in London, around the world, you'll get it everywhere. But I walked into Gaucho as a nobody and walked out as a sous chef with them offering me like a head chef position. And I'd worked there for 3 years, you know, and I was like, this is, in my mind, I consider myself a very humble person. I said, this is not right. I'm not ready. No chance. It would be rude to the industry to do something like this. Plus, I'll like sign my soul to the devil and probably never want to take a step down. So, but my main goal from Gaucho was master the grill. And then cooking a 400 cover service alone.
Yeah.
And in Gaucho, it's like the business model is you don't rest the steaks, kind of, if that makes sense. You don't carve the steaks. And the person on the pass also works with the person on the grill, and the person on the grill basically like they run the service. They call the tables, they control everything. So you become like this junkie for the grill, and then you have guys in Gaucho that work there 15 years on the grill. They're just hooked. And it's they're mental. Like I've still never met people that can cook steak like these guys and just have an absolute, like, there's an episode of Futurama where Fry gets like a tax rebate. He buys 100 coffees. He said, I'm going to buy $1 coffee every time. And then he drinks his 100th coffee and he like goes into hyper warp and just completely, it's like Matrix style. Mm-hmm. And these guys are like that. They literally put every steak on the grill, go and have a cigarette, come back and then call every table, like 20, 30 tables, and then just start sending steaks. And it would be on point, not one steak come back.
Like robots, right?
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And it's purely technique, nothing else.
But what was that technique then?
You know, obviously, to understand beef, you have to work with it a lot, especially on open fire. You get familiar with your grill. And then the Gaucho grill it's a gas grill, actually. It's not charcoal, so it's super, super consistent. So you have like three bars of a section of the grill. You got the middle where you would like sear steaks, high temperature,
right.
Maybe something a bit thinner. You want medium rare. You don't want to overcook it. It's quick sear. Up the back is more of an oven, so you got the convection kind of happening in the grill. And then the bottom is literally like a slow sear. So you do a tenderloin. Maybe you want it medium, but you don't want to burn it. So depending on where you place your steaks, and the Gaucho grill, like if this table is like 1.5 meters, it's every single Gaucho grill is about 3.5 meters long. So I've worked evenings where you literally have every inch of the grill full. There's a whole cow on the grill, and there's one person running that, like cooking these steaks to cuisson.
and also understanding the tickets.
Yeah, yes, sir. So the first technique I saw was you place the steaks in where the checks are. So you have a huge check rail.
Right.
So it's pretty self-explanatory. Maybe you have like a commie that will stack your beef onto a tray and then put a check. And then you would put this put the steaks on the grill. And then they changed to like a computer system. And this one, for the life of me, like if anyone ever tells me I have to work on a computer system, I will have to leave the restaurant, because he was flipping like pages on this, like a McDonald's screen.
Right.
And there's all the checks with the cuissons, and he had to remember like 4 pages back these were the guys that can cook 400 covers alone. And they don't even look at the checks anymore. They just know the table numbers in their head, and it's on there. Pure robot. Crazy stuff.
So then after you made your move and decided not to become a robot,
yeah,
how did you get the job?
So I moved to Gordon Ramsay next, and Gordon Ramsay has this wonderful brand called Maze Grill, which was an offshoot of Maze. And they had, like, the team that they built that with was unbelievable. And I wanted to get into a higher level of cooking, you know. And I was like, well, I'm coming from Gaucho, which, yeah, you might say is pretty low level, but at least I learned all the fundamentals. I was practicing making like all sauces and stuff every day. I could cook meat, which is a huge plus.
And consistency.
Exactly,
obviously.
exactly. And I was building my palate. Gaucho's successful because the food's good, and was good and is mega consistent. So that's a fundamental. And there was an opening for a sous chef in Gordon Ramsay Maze Grill in Park Walk. And I went and met the gentleman named Michael Dabbs, has a voice like a chainsaw. And he's an absolute legend and just one, like super passionate guy. And we just had a bit of an interview and he said, okay, well, do a trial. And at that stage, like, you're not really cooking food for menus and stuff like as a entry level sous chef. And he's like, let's cook a service and see how you go. And they had a broiler grill, which is a horrible piece of equipment to cook busy services on, but a really nice piece of equipment at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
You pull your deck out with the heat on top. Same thing, convection with a big flat top. And it was in a dungeon kitchen.
Of course, London and their dungeon kitchen.
Yeah, like
famous.
Me being 6 foot, like over 6 foot is dangerous. Anyway, he's like, yeah, I think it's like 30 covers, 40 covers tonight. Friday night, of course. I don't know why I agreed to a trial on Friday night. And of course, they're in the shit. They have no staff. Turns out that I'm actually the cover grill that night.
Stitch up.
He's like, here's the fish dressing, here's the fish garnish. You got your jus here. You put your like on the boiler like a couple of things in like you make your makeshift bain marie.
Yeah.
Chopping board. I need you to clean some tenderloin and just skim that sauce. And I was like, yeah, okay, no worries. It's all casual, a couple of cigarettes outside, a bit of coffee, then service starts. I realised, like, I'm looking around like, there's no one here. It's just me. He's on the pass, like running up and down because there's a little like cold kitchen upstairs and he's running up and down. I was like, oh, this is mental. I just, like riding a bike, just turned on, cooked this 100 cover service in a kitchen I've never done before with food I've never cooked. And he's like, yeah, you got the job, man. And then that was it. It was really cool. And a lot of people had said, like, you don't realize how much you learn until you probably leave the kitchen. And then it just switched on, And all of that work that I did, I'd sit up all night reading books and watching YouTube. And I was at Culinary school, almost finished. And it all just switched on. I was like, okay, here we go. Let's go.
So then after 7 years of London kitchens and dungeons and all of that kind of stuff, what made you move to the UAE?
Bit of a touchy subject, but I made a mistake applying for a visa there, and ultimately led to me having to leave the country. We had the Queen on our Australian banknotes and part of the Commonwealth, but still wasn't good enough. And I just breached like a red flag law. And they said, well, yeah, you got to leave. So I never planned on coming to the UAE. I knew about Dubai and, of course, like Gordon and Gaucho and so many of the brands that I know in the UK and even in Australia now is like populating in Dubai, you're seeing about it. And I said, well, it's a good gap. I don't want to go home yet. I don't want to go to Australia. And I came over here and, didn't come over here. First had to find a job. And I reached out to a gentleman named Flavio, who I worked with in Gordon Ramsay. And I was on the LinkedIn and I hadn't even used it before, LinkedIn as a job search technique.
Right.
And he's like, I think you'd be the right fit for this. And it was Sucre. And just by chance, Fernando Troca was the corporate chef for Gaucho for years.
Oh.
Yeah, so even while I was still there, he was still doing the work for Gaucho, and then he parted ways and did a lot of his own activations, and he was probably a really nice, homely fit to come into a hectic Dubai. It was tough, but I got the job on interview alone. I met the chef, Wesley, and Blavio like put a big good word in for me, which I am very, very grateful for, and just jumped straight in, and it was just such a perfect fit. You know, I had made the decision not to pursue ultra fine dining, and super like I was a big advocate for how food is changing in the UK, and it's produce led and storytelling, and really doing your due diligence on ingredients, and making sure just if you're going to serve a piece of protein, that the cuisson is absolutely perfect, and the vegetables or sauces or purees or whatever just spot on, and you don't have such a cluttered plate, and just focus purely on storytelling of food. And that tied into how I perceive food when I was younger and to now, and what I appreciate in food. And I'd in London 7 years, like I went to a couple of Michelin star restaurants, but it was more about that hole in the wall, you know, the bagel shop, you know, Brick Lane.
I know it well.
Hustling for curry.
So the other thing is I want to understand. So just to put it into context, that was actually for the opening of Sucre, right?
Yeah. So I managed to get in, a flight in, and literally touched down in Dubai. And I wanted to go to the kitchen straight away. Like I was just, it was kind of right after COVID. And I'd only worked here and there. I'm still wearing masks. Everyone was still wearing masks.
Yeah.
And it was just jumped straight in. Had like 3 weeks of pre-opening. It was kind of delayed a little bit because of construction and whatever. But the menu was kind of already set by the chef. Fernando Troca was in and out, and he had his, because there's more than one outlet. There's one in Soho, just off Carnaby Street, and then he has another one in Argentina. So it's kind of a brand and had an identity of its own. And he said, you need this, and then the rest can be the chef's interpretation. And then it got to the point where I was doing all the food in Sucre.
But I mean, the opening, how was that for you? Because obviously you'd worked in London, you knew the markets then. I'm assuming that you didn't know what DIFC was, the DIFC crowd, the vibe. What's a brunch, as in a Dubai brunch? How I mean, did the culture and all of these things sort of punch you in the face?
I don't know. I know a little bit about Arabic, and there's words that associate with a situation. Like you can't describe them in English. Moving to Dubai, there needs to be a word for that, because it is literally like the most enormous culture shock from so many different reasons. And working in kitchens, just trying to get, like, we are so lucky in Australia and the UK when I work there to literally place, and I can make a phone call at 1 a.m. if I need to. And that guy's just got keys to my restaurant, and the food's with the invoice in the fridge when I get there at 8 a.m. even.
Yeah.
So coming, getting...
I'm laughing because I remember those days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we set that, of course we set this restaurant up from scratch. So we built the costing system that we were calculating our food cost off. There was nothing really, it was all new on the system. We connected supply chains, brand new. I didn't know the suppliers. My executive chef had been in Dubai a while, but at the same time, like, you're calling them for things that are just, I don't know what to say, like, available in the shop.
Yeah.
And they're saying, no, we don't have. No, what do you mean? No, it's not possible.
And there's no such thing as, what do you mean? And they don't even tell you when it's coming, not coming, next week, double orders, triple orders. So it's very tricky to navigate, right?
Yeah, like spring onions that look like leeks, and tomatoes that have been punched by the delivery driver. Fish that's for sure gonna kill someone. Like it was a lot. And I've quickly became like obsessed with just being at work to make sure everything was controlled. And it didn't have to be like that, but I felt like I need a year to work like this to just figure it out. And then Dubai special 100-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks was just normal. I think I burnt through a pair of Birkenstocks in about 4 months. It was mental, but absolutely loved it.
But what did it teach you?
Just remain patient. You know, one of the key factors I think that a lot of chefs overlook is like patience. And I knew, you know, if you can see an improvement in a day or a week in whatever you're working on, whether it's the chefs or the procurement situation or the costings or the menu or the guest feedback or whatever it is, if you can see an improvement, then you made progress. So all of these things were like coming together. And then the feedback for the food in Sucre when we first opened was just unbelievable. And it was popping. We hit it off with like a really good branch after like 6 months, and it just went nuts. And it was good. And I've, you know, we're all addicts.
No, of course, but also, I mean, Sucre was, I mean, and it is an amazing place.
Unreal.
Very popular within DIFC, but also incredibly popular with a lot of the locals.
Yeah.
So you must have, apart from the practicing of those 3 weeks, when did you feel that as a kitchen you sort of hit your stride?
I think we came out of a summer season, and it was pretty rocky, you know, like first summers for any restaurant in UAE is like, whoa, pretty tough. We opened late in the season. And then I had my core team, and we had a core concept, and we were driving it, and the feedback was good. We had a core of guests that were coming, regulars. We had activations, like all the activations were working, and yeah, it was really good. And then, you know, we did Taste of Dubai. I set that up and with the team, and we absolutely smashed it. I think we were the only restaurant that had, like, well, the people representing Taste that year that had enough food, and we just had a line the whole time. I think we made, like, I don't even want to say the number, but it was mental. Everyone ran out of food, and we were just pumping choripans, if you know what they are, sausage and bread.
But I want to also understand, how was your first summer in the UAE?
I didn't actually have to experience a full summer. They shipped me over to London for 2 months, very lucky, to work. It was like June, July. And then I only got the snippets. But I'd just spent 7 years in the UK, and I was still walking to work in the UAE. I probably still would if I could. Like, if I still worked in DIFC and lived adjacent to DIFC, I was just bearing the heat and loving it. Didn't care. Went to the beach. Almost got heat stroke. Phone told me, like, get out of the heat. Like, stop working. And I'm just like having to walk down Kite Beach. But yeah, it was more shocking. The culture shock. Like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop for the first 2-3 months. You need to do 1-2 years in UAE to understand that things are just different here.
Correct.
And the summer is part of that. I'm not a shopping mall kind of guy, so I just had to deal with the heat. Got up really early to do things, go fishing or ride my bike, like 5 a.m.
Yeah. But then you did another monumental opening, you know, which is the Guild. And you'd worked under Chef Paul, who is, you know, an absolute legend. I want to also understand from your point of view, you'd obviously had, you know, from London, you had your sous chef experience. Then you worked for Ramsay, an established name. Then again, head chef at Sucre. You knew now, after 2 years, how the leadership is, the ordering system, all of those sorts of things, the produce. So then when you first understood the work scope of the Guild, how was it working with Paul and the team and building such a sort of phenomenal powerhouse kitchen team?
Everyone, like, I got handed my head chef position by sheer hard work, dedication, consistency, professionalism, and maintaining that for a long period of time. And I didn't ask for it. It kind of got given to me.
Right.
which looking back on it, I'm very proud to say that I did that. And I stayed a sous chef for a very long time on purpose to gain the confidence to become a head chef. But this was my first transition from being a head chef to being a head chef of a monster, a literal living, breathing monster. And, you know, when we did the interview and I got to meet Paul, at the time was Chris Bothwell, and it just was like, I was nervous, to say the least. And the fear of not being good enough was all I could think about. So again, it was off to the races again, like 9, 10 a.m. starts. Had a few life dramas. My executive chef that I worked with in Sucre had like passed away as well, which is just super unfortunate. Wesley Berghoff. So it was just like life was really hitting me hard, and this change came at a good time, but also came at a challenging time. And I was just like, some days I was like melting. First couple of days, I was like completely melting. And then again, I just tried to remain calm. 45 chefs, I think 50 chefs we had on our brigade at first. And it was literally like, we did reverse. We did breakfast, then lunch, and then dinner, which is kind of alternate to what most restaurants do. So it's probably good to like feed up, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And then, you know, Paul's leadership and ability to maintain composure and professionalism and lead the people from the front, like he is literally in the marching line, going full force with his army of chefs. And if he's the first to get hit, he will just keep walking. And everyone's like, whoa, this guy's, he's like, imagine a wall of people and he's just in the ranks marching forward. And that's how we did it. And it was like obstacle after obstacle and this and this and this. Like setting up those fish tanks in the guild was just an absolute nightmare. Like the amount of stress that caused us as a team was immense. Procurement, getting food into ICD, all of these things, like setting up new supply chains, like it was just immense. Maintaining a consistent, like we were operating a bakery out of the back of the guild, still to this day. And to do bread for breakfast, lunch and dinner, pastries, croissants, pain au chocolat.
Yeah, no thank
sourdough
you.
loaves.
Yeah.
In a small kitchen, a couple of deck ovens.
On an industrial scale as well.
And to do what we did, it was unreal. And it just you know, everyone had the nerves. Everyone. Paul had the nerves. Well, I don't know about Paul. He's got nerves of steel. But everyone had the nerves at first. And then it just kind of just started like clicking, like things falling into place, you know, everyone's experience and confidence and know-how. We had a lot of chefs like working within the UAE. We do, like Sucre, I had 50% of my team when we opened was from somewhere else, like another country. They flew them in. Where this was a kitchen completely built on chefs from the UAE. And that could have been a fundamental, like, had a huge impact on how we ran with the guild.
But I was going to say, for anyone who's not been to the guild or seen the guild, you walk into this sort of huge, beautiful building, you walk through the bar, then you see the sort of cold kitchen, I would call it. So you see all of the fish tanks, everything is live. So then you see the cold larder, and everybody's sort of working the raw bar, so to speak.
Yeah.
But right smack bang in the center, you've got this sort of 1920s bistro feel restaurant or dining room. But in the heart is this red brick wood-fired oven, which is the centerpiece of the restaurant. And the chefs are working in front of the guests almost theatrically, right?
Yeah.
And I always wonder, like, how do you keep the composure during that time? How do you communicate to the team? Because it's quite a noisy room,
Yeah.
right? there's a lot of life going on. You see all the guests all having a look, walking past. You're chopping stuff, and someone's like taking their phone and putting it and you're trying to not chop their fingers off. You know, how did you sort of, when it was, I mean, walk me through a super busy Friday or Saturday night when you were pumping. How was the pressure and how was the feel amongst the chefs when they knew they had a full house, plus all the VIPs, plus the owner is always there? It's tricky, no?
We definitely had some growing pains, but I can say that every single service, we never went down. We never had a night where we went down, ever. And that's purely because of Paul. But like I said, we went reverse. So breakfast kind of was easy. Lunch was, at first, we were really loading on lunch early in the season. So it came at like a really good time. So we had it was like the training wheels. We had the training wheels. We were riding, a bit wobbly at first, but then we managed to get through. And then pumping like 200 plus cover lunch services, like 3 menus available. 3 kitchens, might I add. So at first we didn't have radios, and then we very quickly realized we needed a radio to communicate around the kitchen, because sending a commie or even a head chef myself to run and say something to someone's not working.
Right.
But radios helped a lot. And then you're right. We were on stage. We were literally dancing, and it was just a symphony of like everything just working harmoniously together. And we were pumping out food, and it just came naturally. I can't explain it. I honestly can't explain it. It just felt like leadership of Paul, maintaining that, to manage that, to know what to focus on and not what to. That maturity in the industry, second to none. And set up, organization, intensity when it needed to be intense, like all of those things with the experience of the chefs and the standard expectation of someone like Paul and all of the other head chefs involved. You know, we all had very high standards, and it just came together. You couldn't replicate it again.
No, because also the thing is that you could actually see that, because obviously afterwards, then it was the fleet of accolades that came.
Yeah.
Michelin opening of the year, Go Merlot. You know, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. You yourself were nominated for head chef of the year for Go Merlot. So
for caterer.
For caterer, sorry.
Yeah.
But that must have been phenomenal for the team.
Of course.
To sort of get all of these accolades, and it was almost back to back.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just flowing.
Yeah.
It really, you know, when you work like that, like we were working intense. It was intense. To start to receive the recognition, it just put fire under our butts, and we just wanted to work harder. And things got better. Consistency got better. The attention to detail got better. The ability to cram what used to take 2 days into one, it just appeared out of nowhere. Like you know when you're on a pass with someone that you've now worked many 200 cover plus services, you know when he's got his arm like that or she's got their arm like this, that they're gonna then move here, and then you're like dancing.
So there's a rhythm to everything.
It was unbelievable, and it kept coming. Like the challenges kept coming, and the activations kept coming, and naturally, you know, to UAE restaurant and any restaurant around the world, you don't open, you don't have a brunch and a Sunday lunch, and you don't have your Christmas menu for next year written or this year written. You don't open with those kind of things, especially not in the UAE.
Yeah.
So it kept coming, and it was loading and loading and loading, and the pressures were immense, and we just were knocking them down, and it was great, and the team just smashed it. Every single person in there. It was great. And I'm proud to say that I was a head chef there, and I survived because it was tough, but it was great.
Which then moves you onto your current position, which is working at this beautiful restaurant, Sand and Koal, located in, I think, in one of the most iconic locations in the world, by the way, the Emirates Palace, Mandarin Oriental in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So when you first saw the restaurant and you saw the brief, take me through, through that sort of interview and the process for you to sort of, if we forget the location for a minute, but just the concept of the restaurant.
Look, this was, first of all, I did a tour of the hotel. I had been working in standalone restaurants for my whole professional career. I was looking for something to like create this support structure for the next stages of my growth. And the Sand and Koal site was available. Like there's a CDC, chef de cuisine position available. It was bloody hot and it was covered up. They weren't open yet, and because they closed for the season. And I went and had a look. I went and had a look at the menu, the Instagram. They had 1.5 seasons or something of being opened as Sand and Koal. So the person that would like help me out to get in, they sent me over the deck. They sent me like the proposal deck that they did to open it. They sent me like the lookbook, some inspiration, the menu that they were working on to open for the season. And I don't know, just something clicked. I thought really hard about it. I spent quite a few days like really trying to nail out the concept. But the first idea I had straight away was like, this is like you are sitting in the Mediterranean or Latin America, like by the beachside Ibiza, beach vibes, but you're in the UAE. So I've been to Greece, I've been to Spain, I've been to like all of these like coastal regions where you eat and you eat and you eat and you eat some more, and you can order the same thing over and over, especially because it's cheap and stuff.
Right, yeah, of course.
But you can order the same thing and you're like, I never feel full. You know, that mentality of like, the food is so fresh, it's so clean. It's olive oils, it's sourdoughs, it's really fresh produce. That's what I want. So I built this entire proposal, like I literally pitched the restaurant and the concept and the idea, and then cooked, I think, 8 dishes to go with that. From bread to, I didn't do desserts, but bread to like the final meal, and tied it in with the name Sand and Koal. And I pitched the idea of being open for lunch is like sand and Koal is the evening.
Right. Nice. Night and day.
Yeah, exactly. And then built 2 menus based on that. So you got a nice, light, fresh, and then something a bit more hearty, warm, but at the same time focusing on excellent ingredients, open fire, locally sourced produce where I could. And then that's now kind of what Sand and Koal is. It's very quickly morphing into something that is I'm really proud of already at such an early stage. But I've got coming up very soon like a very amazing menu built on local ingredients as much as possible, and then wherever the gaps are, I'm using the best of what I can, and it's covering that. Like I don't feel people saying like, oh my God, I'm gonna pop. Unless it's a friend that I'm invited.
Yeah, of course.
But it's hit the nail on the head, and I'm using those Latin American, European fundamentals, flavors, with a twist of Arabic-inspired dishes. Like we did a rice for. I was very lucky enough to do the 50 best like entry dinner, like for all of the 50 best, like the people organizing MENA 50 best. And the brief was literally what my pitch was: local ingredients with local inspired flavors. So I did this mushroom rice, like a paella, with the below farm mushrooms, with a saffron aioli and a black cardamom roasted aioli as well. And then we put fresh za'atar leaves and then fried sage leaves with like I was just
beautiful. It
just came together. Like I was like, oh, so good. So it's going on the menu, but it's a paella, but with those flavors. So that's that. Someone from Spain can eat this and be like, wow, that's good. Someone local can eat this and say, wow, that's good. And one of our international guests that knows nothing about the UAE, maybe never even been to Spain, can eat that and be like, wow, that's good. And that's what I learned from 3 years in UAE, in Dubai, is our client base is not someone in London that's happy to eat a cabbage that existed 1,000 years ago that they've just genetically found in the bushes somewhere.
Yeah.
They're hard. It's a hard market here, you know. But at the same time, I don't want to go safe. I just want to cook good food, and it just fell together.
So then, if we go out, because I want to sort of understand you a little bit more in terms of, so you had that menu that you currently are cooking,
Yep.
and then you're in the process or about to launch the sort of new one,
Yep.
which is yours, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, you're working with live fire again.
Yep.
Was that a conscious decision? As in, you because obviously, being Australian, as you said, you've got that barbecue culture.
Yep.
Then, of course, gaucho. So throughout your life, you've been working on grills.
Yeah.
But this is live fire.
Yeah.
It's not gas. And you have to learn and understand fire, wood, charcoal. There is an absolute science and a method to the madness. Why did you decide to go along that route?
Bit of a gap in my London career, but I worked for the same company that owns Gaucho, M Restaurants. So there was a gentleman named Mike Reed. I did 2 years there, and he had some unbelievable dishes, and he was focusing on a lot of fire cooking. It was like a high-end grill, and I really after Gordon, and then working 2 years in there, where I was literally just even, we had the Brazilian open fire grill, which had the adjustable deck.
Yeah.
What's it called? Can't remember. But part of the mise en place was create a really shallow, about that thick of charcoal, red hot, from the Josper ideally, or you can build your fire and separate it out.
Right.
And I would literally just toss 10 kilos of chilies on top of that, like red chilies. And anyone in the kitchen at the time would
yeah, of course, because you can't breathe it in.
Yeah. So, and then that was to make bases for sauces. And we did like dishes now, which are only really coming out now again, like your half a hispy cabbage just absolutely destroyed in the Josper. And like destroyed. But when you eat this cabbage, your mind is like, it doesn't make sense. It's like the whole, like, cover your eyes, smell something, eat something. You're like, it's like a brain fart kind of thing. Yeah. So that was unbelievable. And I really knew, because Sucre was fire as well. And I built a lot of the menu around fire, but it didn't move in that way. Guild, I was in the salon, that kitchen.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I was like, oh, specialty chef. Like, I'm never going to be a sushi chef. I don't have the, I don't know, serial killer vibes.
Discipline as well.
Discipline.
Yeah. It's very disciplined, and you have to be extremely, but the patience is even more so.
Yeah. But you say, for you, that fire cooking is like a structured thing. Is not. It's here. It's experience. It's time in the fire. It's time looking at fires. It's time understanding woods. It's time understanding charcoals. It's time understanding your products, your produce. Like, I stopped using a lot of oil on my veggies because it's just taints the vegetables, gets that like charcoal, like horrible petrol flavor. These little things that you just learn over time, different oils over the different fire.
Right.
All these things is just like, I somehow became like a specialized chef that works with open fire. And I love cold kitchen. I love fresh ingredients, but you'll just find me trying to figure out how to get those cold dishes coming from the fire. So now I'm building salads from the fire, building my sides from the fire. I want at Sand and Koal every single chef to be working outside. That's the plan. And I'm just, I became like naturally a specialized chef in open fire cooking. And Australia does. They have, I met Lennox.
Yeah.
Went to his event. He cooked in Sand and Koal many years ago, amazingly. He's not really Australian, but
50-50, everybody would say now. Yes.
He's getting there.
Yes, yeah.
But what a legend, and pioneering kind of that open fire. And something that Paul taught me as well is like, fire doesn't have to be like American barbecue, like Texas Roadhouse smoke disaster. It can just be cooked by that and nothing more. I don't have any smoked dishes on my menu. Nothing's, people are like, oh wow, the steaks were like unbelievable. What are you cooking them on? I say a bit of this, a bit of that, like a bit of charcoal, a bit of wood, a combination of wood. It's just a vessel, like a way to cook, rather than it becoming everything,
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
It just happened very naturally, and I'm, yeah.
But also, what's really interesting is the fact that just recently you had the most amazing hosted dinner, and you talk about Australia, and you talk about you're saying that the butchery in Australia is amazing, but then there was a brand that you partnered up with, Westholme, Australian Wagyu. Now, how did that partnership come about?
Look, in my career now, I'm very confident with beef. And then I didn't realize, in UK, beef is amazing. Australia, beef is amazing. Around the world, there's a lot of good beef. And then in the guild, we really got some top-end beef, and I found some of the most outstanding beef that I've ever used, and it mainly comes from Australia. We don't sell it to the people that live in Australia. It's exclusive for export because people want it that much.
Right.
The demand is so big. And I'd used Westholme and discovered Westholme, and in the guild we were in the running to be listed on 101 best steak restaurants in the world, and that's nothing short of like a miracle. I think the only restaurant that's ever even been in the list in the UAE. I don't think there is one that sits on the 101. And I moved to Abu Dhabi, and Westholme, a lot of we have straw fire, we have Broadway. I think they use Westholme for some of the tenderloins, just in the palace alone. So like in your banqueting and stuff. I know the product, and they approached me and said, "Would you like to?" I had Westholme on the menu at the time, and it's coming back on now with those dishes. And I said, "Of course, nature-led." I went to the event in Dubai. It's unbelievable. It's they said it's your baby. Do what you want. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I literally put together all of everything I've learned about preparing beef, whether it's preserving via curing, to preserving via smoking, to fresh, what to use, what the flavor components are of each different cut, to cooking over the fire, cooking in the joss bar, slow roasting, steaks, everything, pairings, everything. And Westholme makes it so easy. The product is just did the work. I just got to cook the food.
Yeah, but also it's super cool because the flavors are amazing, and
of course.
The dinner was fantastic. But for you, it must be also quite a proud moment to be using Australian Wagyu in the UAE at Emirates Palace.
Like when I say like Westholme, they do a tour. Like they take some chefs sometimes, or if you want to go see the farms, like it's literally in my backyard. And to be long time now, I haven't visited Australia because of life and moving and whatever. But I'm really excited to go back and be like a Westholme representative and an Australian Wagyu representative. Like we're cooking, like guys, we're killing it over here.
But it's super cool, no?
It's yeah, very proud. I'm proud to be Australian for the meticulous attitude that people have with providing the best that they can. If they're going to do something, they do it well, typically speaking. So Wagyu Westholme is just a perfect example of that.
But I mean, I have to say, it was amazing dinner, and everybody who turned up, they were blown away, and of course, it was phenomenal.
It just came, Again, it just came together, you know. It just when you know as well as me, after enough time in the kitchen and now being specialized, things kind of just fall into place, and it's not by like sitting there and like, oh my God, I need a recipe, force this information onto a page, and then you cook it or someone else cooks it. We were cooking those Westholme dishes for like a few weeks leading up to it. Like they gave me the brief like 2 months before, and I was like, oh, I need to start preparing something.
Right,
and I was like tasting things and this and this, and it wasn't straightforward. I was curing a tenderloin for a month, drying it for 2 weeks.
Yeah, but it's amazing that you knew you had to do that. And
I called him up. I had the meeting. I called him up, and I was like, I need a tenderloin tomorrow. if we're going to do this, I need tomorrow.
Thanks. Bye. Next. Yeah. Very good.
So but I was really like, it was good.
But then you'd worked in all standalone restaurants throughout your whole career, and now you're in a hotel. So what are the challenges around that? Because, you know, there are certain things that you have to deal with. There's obviously policies and procedures in place. At the same time, let's not forget that there are, and you need to tell me, maybe 9 or 10 restaurants in the same vicinity.
12 outlets.
12.
Yeah.
Right.
Outlets.
Plus banqueting, events, 50 best, Michelin guide. There's a lot going on, and your restaurant is at the forefront there.
Yeah.
Right? So how is it for you to sort of deal with all of these other things?
It took me probably just a month to figure out how to get from A to B. I was very lucky to stay in the hotel with the transition. Very privileged. Mandarin Oriental and Emirates Palace like really took care of me. But at the same time, they don't give you a map. There's no GPS. I'm doing 10,000 steps a day. I've lost weight since working in hotels because I'm doing some serious Ks.
Nice, huh?
It's great, but complete mind-boggling. Like I'm sure in a year's time, if we ever catch up, I'll tell you, I'm still trying to figure things out. So procedures, big one. To change a menu in a hotel is not straightforward.
Yeah.
You need lots of yeses. You need to jump through some hoops for procurement to get the products that you maybe like I used in Dubai. Like I know the supplier. I call them directly and say, do you have this? It took me like 3 weeks to figure out how to upload a product to order it, because you can't call a supplier anymore and just be like, man, I need this cheese tomorrow.
Right.
I know you got it. So that was training wheels, you know. I couldn't spread my wings straight away, and I was just surviving. Like it was really weird. But now it's coming together, and then I had to get a sous chef. So training him on how to do it, and then maybe telling him to go do a couple of things that I'm a bit scared to go and do.
Right.
So then I can figure it out.
Okay.
That's a good way to learn.
Yeah.
But every single day there's new things, new challenges that are just popping up that I'm like, wow, never thought of that. Never thought that would be a problem. And it is. Or the vice versa.
Right.
The 100% vice versa. The support structure and the opportunity to express yourself and do your job and create a growth in a restaurant. Like I'm already thinking about Sand and Koal a year from now kind of thing, and have opportunities to rub shoulder. Like I did a 6 hands dinners with Michelin chefs within, I think, a month of working there. I was like, wow, that's That's cool.
That's an amazing opportunity as well for you and for your team.
Exactly. You know, and now I really, it's the first place in UAE where I've met a team of people that have worked in an environment for more than 6 months, 1 year. So I have a team that I can really promote their growth and nurture them to hopefully get the best out of them and see them grow up and do what they want to do. You know, money and knowledge is the two things that most chefs seek eventually. And, you know, within that a hotel environment, you can really nurture someone. You know, you can plan 2 years in advance, like say, hey, look, you're not ready now for this, but let's work 6 months. We review a year, we review. Let's say they move to another kitchen, then you work alongside that chef de cuisine or your executive chef, and you have this like timeline of their growth that you can really deliver and be like, this is what they need to work on. Mm-hmm. And then someone else would take them the rest of the way. But you get to see them every day. So I like it. It's really good.
But for you, what are the aspirations for the restaurant? What would you like to achieve in a year's time, 2 years, 3 years?
Look, I don't want to like overshoot and think too much, and I just want to remain massively consistent. I want to break into not the local as in Emiratis, but even just the people from Abu Dhabi to feel confident to come and dine in our restaurant. I want to put Sand and Koal on the map internationally. I want it to be a destination venue, especially where the whole of UAE is seasonal. But now Abu Dhabi for me is like, wow, it's this rich, elaborate, well thought out, structured, living, breathing kind of cultural representation of what the UAE has the best of the best to show. And I want people to be like, oh, men and women to be like, oh, we're going to Abu Dhabi. We need to see, for one, Mandarin Oriental at Abu Dhabi Emirates Palace, and two, to go to Sand and Koal. That would be top. Because
what's really interesting is that when you're abroad, I think a lot of people will think, okay, Dubai, because of Dubai Bling, Netflix, so many other things, right? Let's be very honest. But when you think about Abu Dhabi, you're right, especially over the last few years, so many beautiful little concepts have popped up. Lots of talents are coming in, and it's as you said, it's living and breathing, and it's done extremely well.
Yeah.
And the amount of potential it has for it to become a beautiful gastronomic destination, everything is there, and it's ripe for the picking. Oh. So and you're absolutely right, and you're one of those people who are sort of leading the way into that. You know, and well done, Mina's 50 Best. You know, we had Mr. William. He was on the show. Yeah. And, you know, they picked an incredible location, and he talked about that dinner and that lunch very highly. He, you know, and all of those people spoke about it very highly. So, you know, congratulations, because it's not easy. Yeah. There's also a lot of pressure. No? Because you've got...
I didn't sleep for a few days leading up to that.
I'm not surprised. But then for you, so you know, I've got two things for you to sort of, because I want to understand from your point of view. First of all, how do you feel that the UAE is attracting young talent such as yourself to bring them in? Do you think that's possible? Because the reason I'm asking is because previously, if you were from, let's say, London or Australia, a lot of people would say, okay, let's go and learn in France, let's go and learn in New York, so on and so forth. But now what I'm noticing, especially over the past 4 years, that a lot of young talents are flooding into the UAE. Do you think that's going to continue?
I hope so. I 100% foresee so. I think UAE has very quickly been put on the map as like an entrepreneur's dream for every industry, whatever it may be. You know, we are creating the culture, whatever industry we're in. And I think especially coming from UK, you know, let's quickly rush a concept. Maybe it's a raging success purely because of location in the middle of Soho or something, pumping. 3 years down the line, there's 10 restaurants with all the same name cooking like average food, and then they sell it for like a couple of million, and then that's it, you know?
Right.
Like that's like a London special, like a UK special, which is great. And they're amazing business operators in their own, and those brands are all over the UK. But I feel like here, you know, business operators, hotel managers are looking for talent to take that concept and run with it and absolutely make it their own. So you'll find a lot of people that have come over here and they maybe have mastered their craft in their own country, or really, you know, chefing is one of any industry now. You see the people, they may not even have a culinary degree or a degree what they're doing, but they're absolutely smashing it. But because of corporate structure or whatever it may be back in their home country, they've never had the opportunity to express themselves. And the UAE is giving the people the stage to stand on. And of course, some have and will continue to fall. But I think it's a great environment for people that are really just looking like all these chefs that are in the headlines, they're not working part-time. They are destroying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They are destroying themselves, myself included. You too, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to talk about it, but yes.
But because we love what we do and the flexibility and the cutting edge of what the UAE is doing. And yeah, we are, 5-10 years backwards in terms of procurement and stuff. But my gosh, in 3 years that I've been here, the ability to get what you need and like this is now becoming, like I said, you can't buy Wagyu in Australia as easy as you can buy it here, because everyone wants to sell the best stuff here. So there's a gentleman named Rick. He works in the Watling Manor and One Star, and he came and did a guest chef appearance with George, my friend. I fed him a crab, a crab dish. And he's like, man, where did you get this? Like king crab leg. I said, it's everywhere. It's everywhere in UAE. My gosh, every supplier's calling me, trying to get them to buy their crab. He's like, I cannot find it in the UK.
Really?
He's like, all my suppliers, not one person can get king crab leg.
That's very interesting to know.
It is.
Especially Watley Manor.
Of course.
One star, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, and now, like the suppliers are just as passionate as the chefs, which is that maturing of the market. Business operators are passionate people that are really driving concepts that they're interested in. Food trends are, I think, broken away from that kind of tacky Dubai flair that initially was. I wasn't here. I was here for kind of the tail end of it. And then with the introduction of Michelin, Gant Malou, the 50 Best, all of this kind of attention, like that stuff doesn't really work anymore. Like putting a bit of dry ice underneath your ceviches.
Yeah, no, it's a thing of the past.
Yeah. So, but that's happened since I've been here. So if we've come that far, and I can now get like hand-picked fruit from a French supplier from Ranji's Market, unbelievable.
So then, Chief, we now have come to the quick fire round. So, first of all, Lamington or Pavlova?
Lamington. I hate Pavlova. I think I ate too much as a kid. Just rank.
Spicy or pickled?
Oh, no, that's not fair. You know what? I destroyed my stomach with spice. So I have to say pickled,
right.
Even though I love spice.
Right.
But if both at the same time, even better.
Okay. All right. Favorite ingredient?
Ooh. Potato. Potato is the most versatile thing we have in the kitchen. It can be dressed up or down
I'm in with the potatoes. I'm in. I'm in.
Potato.
T-bone or tomahawk?
T-bone. Used to be tomahawk, but if I'm going to eat a whole one to myself, it has to be T-bone. Otherwise, you need to roll me out of there.
Right.
I'll probably have the day off sick.
Fish and chips or pie and chips?
Oh, pie. I miss pies from Australia. I miss pies. The last time I went to Australia, the first thing I did was drive to my favorite pie shop. I didn't even go home, I don't think. Got 2 pies, a sausage roll, and we have this ice break milk. And I just literally
Destroyed it.
I just sat in the bakery and just ate it. I was like
crying because it was so amazing.
Oh, pie. Yeah.
As of right this second, what would you say are your top 3 favorite cuisines to eat?
Indian for sure. I have an absolute obsession with Indian food. I think it's one of the most complex, sophisticated, historic cuisines that is out there. And people really don't understand it. Like, you ask a Western chef to cook Indian food.
Yeah, no.
Doesn't happen. But the other way around's fine.
It's
like, what's all the fuss about?
Yeah, true, true.
Indian for sure. I know Australia doesn't have a cuisine. Like, to say Australian cuisine is like Lamington's pavlova. Like, this isn't a cuisine. It doesn't take influences from one particular person. But at the same time, my grandma never stood over me over a pan of bechamel and said, you can't stir the roux with a whisk and slap your hand kind of thing. There's no rules. So I like Australian food for what it is, cafe culture, the freshness, the intrigue of creating your own garams, and like, people are really obsessed with this stuff. And that's just regular kitchens. So that fresh mentality, I think, has taken me a long way, and a little bit of influence from so many different things. You can't nail it. So Australian food for sure.
Yeah.
And then modern British food, I love it. It is so comforting. Modern British, for me, after leaving the UK, I really miss that same kind of thing. Like, throughout my time in the UK, I did so much research on British history of food and the culinary traditions, and watch it from what it was to what it is now, and then what it's coming back to.
Yeah.
You know, people eating like really what considered to be simple food back in the day, just a purely appreciation of that dish, you know. You've got a lot of chefs that focus, that's the concept. So modern British, for sure.
And then who would you say are your top 3 culinary heroes, but they don't necessarily need to be chefs?
I thought about this a lot. And, you know, coming from Australia, on the TV, your chefs are not the same that you have in Europe or America. And of course, you always see someone like Gordon Ramsay. But for sure, probably the way that I think about food, I really love David Chang and Anthony Bourdain. You know, Anthony Bourdain wasn't even a chef anymore. He was literally like he was using food as the vessel to break into countries and televise the wrongdoings of their governments and stuff like this, and creating elaborate, rich, historic moments that were loosely based around food. But, you know, food gave him that opportunity. And most of the people that he ate with towards the end of his show, like, they didn't even speak English, and they're just sitting there enjoying a meal together. And I think that's what food is for me, you know. And David Chang, because he's just like puts the middle finger to everyone. He said, who are you to tell me that I have to follow traditions? And he created now an empire with that mentality. And like I said, in Australia, we don't have traditions. We don't follow the rules were a bit wild.
But we like that, right?
Exactly. And he did that in a way that, like, I love Richard Branson's book, Like a Virgin. Any publicity is good publicity. He was making gnocchi with 2-minute noodles in a piping bag.
What a legend.
Illegal behavior anywhere in Europe, but it smashed it.
Yeah.
So it kind of showed me there's way more ways to cook than just what's the tradition, but at least he knew the fundamental to create a new way to prepare something. And I just love his food. I have a couple of his books, and then in terms of the final one, like as I've matured into the market, I really I love Jason Atherton. I know now he's a big presence here. We had the pleasure of cooking for him and his family, and Dan Burke and their family, and met with Dan Burke in between the Guild and whatever Mandarin Oriental, but Jason for me is like, his concepts are just so well put together, every single one of them, and he has never stopped pushing, which is for me like, you know, you see Gordon Ramsay and his concepts kind of went all over, but Jason's super consistent. I have a lot of his cookbooks. I love his food. It's modern British, well executed, flawless execution, stunning dining rooms, amazing chefs.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I have to agree.
Yeah. He will go down in history as a real legend.
So then from all of your time in the industry, what would you say has been your funniest either kitchen or restaurant incident that you've seen or been involved in?
I think, look, kitchen's full of funny stories.
Every day.
Every day. Plenty of good ones, plenty of bad ones, plenty of dramas, like non-stop dramas, which is what we love. But I think the one that kind of shook me the most was being on the pass in Gaucho. I was in Gaucho 02. I think we were booked for 1,200 covers in 3 hours.
Oh.
So I was running the main pass, which would do about 600 covers, and there was 3 kitchens. So you can imagine me on the pass. I graduated the grill, and I was on the pass running the food, which is just complete. There's only one person to do it. It's just how it works. There was one person running cold section and desserts, but that would then complement your main. So you would just like imagine 600 covers in 3 hours. I don't even know what the math is on that, like a cover a second. Oh. And some guy has ran up to me in my face, screaming, a guest, screaming, you blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You've cooked the worst fucking steak in the country and you should go to jail and blah, blah, blah. Like, obviously under the influence.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to like maintain composure. Like, we are well and truly in the push. Like, it's going. I'm sitting through this guy's like, and then I was like, having a bit of a moment. General manager comes quickly, like speaks to him. Then their friends come up and say, like, we're really sorry. He's like really drunk, blah, blah, blah.
No shit.
And I was like, what's the table? What did we get him? And I was completely shook because it was not straight away. I was completely shook. Never had anything like that ever before. And it really shook me. Tried to bring back the service. I made sure that he had a new steak on the grill. And then obviously things going, I'm kind of shaky still. We send him his steak. I kind of forget about it. We send another 300 covers. And then he comes up afterwards. He's like, mate, that was the best steak I've ever had in my life. Like the best steak in the country. And I was just like, I realized right then that you have to take things seriously, but at the same time, don't think things too seriously. Because I could have melted on the pass and thrown a 600 cover service.
Right.
And seriously, you are the orchestrator of 600 covers. So yeah, that was pretty good.
How did he get in the kitchen?
No, there's an open kitchen.
It's fully open.
Yeah, so like I'm standing on the pass, and in Gaucho there's no like thing to put the tray on. It comes straight off the pass onto the tray, or on the tray on the pass.
Right.
And then you put the check with the table with
and
the sides. Boom. boom, 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 boom.
Wow.
Especially in O2, you know. Most covers
Yeah.
we did was like 1,400 in 3 hours.
That's insane.
Tons of potatoes a day. Crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, so that was a good lesson, but quite
Did he leave a tip or a pint for you?
I wish. Maybe someone else at the front of house drank it.
Yeah. It's normal, by the way.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for anyone wanting to get into the industry?
Seek a mentor. I mentioned before, like, a mentor doesn't have to be like the best chef ever. It can be someone that you really are inspired by, and learn from them, and whichever kitchen you choose first, that understand that everything is a lesson in the kitchen, and be really humble. I'm still to this day, even with my line chefs below me, I'm the first one to say I was wrong, so we can move on from it and grow from it. And I've been like that my entire career. And just don't chase the cash. I never once chased a promotion or a cash. I just was staying humble, searching for knowledge, never stopped. And pursuing these mentors in my career that would have a profound impact on the person and chef I am today. And they're not everywhere, and you'll get stuck in a kitchen that you absolutely hate. But make sure that after that kitchen that you absolutely hate, and you hate the chef and you hate everyone and you hate the people that are ruining your mise en place and exploding stuff in the backpack machine or whatever it may be, learn how to not be like that so that your next kitchen's better and your next team's better.
So then what advice would you give to 16-year-old 16-year-old Jack Jarrott?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Life will happen. Maintain professionalism, always.
So then, Jack, if anybody wanted to get hold of you through social media, how can they do that?
My chef Instagram is probably the best way. I'm trying to build it up a bit, only with good quality content.
Very good.
It's just Chef Jack Jarrott with my name. 2 R's, 2 T's. One of a kind.
Right, perfect. So I'll put all of that in the show notes.
Amazing.
So look, Jack, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to be here today. And I know that you're extremely busy with so many different things, so we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And look, Chief, it's incredible to hear your journey, and it's amazing to hear and understand your plans for what you're going to do, not just for Sand and Koal, but also for people who, you know, came from different countries to then build a career as what you've done here. So on behalf of those chefs, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see the future of what you're going to achieve. And really, all I want to say is, on behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
What an absolute talent. I loved that conversation. From humble beginnings to firing up grills in London, Dubai, and now Abu Dhabi. Jack's story proves that passion, grit, and a bit of that Aussie spirit that we all know and love can take you anywhere you want to go. The one lesson we can all take away from this, no matter how talented you are or how high up the ladder, it's important to remain humble. And if you make a mistake or you are wrong, it's okay. Take responsibility. Be accountable for your actions. Learn and move on. For me, this point is particularly important to the leaders of the industry, as so often it's easy to walk away and admit when you're wrong. But Jack tells us this is an important thing for the team to see, as this will give them confidence that if a mistake is made, which let's face it, it will, they don't need to face the fear of being belittled. Sand and Koal is just the beginning. You're going to see a lot more of Jack. A massive thanks to him for joining us and sharing his unstoppable journey. As always, all of the information will be in the show notes. And one last thing, if you enjoy the show or know someone who could learn a few lessons from the guests, please share it. You never know, these conversations might inspire someone to take action and become the very best at what they do. Well, we have reached the very end of the show. Thank you for listening. And yes, you are a legend. So until next time, food is memories.